Hey everyone, I wanted to go over the new and exciting news that we got for Monster Hunter Rise on both the Nintendo Switch and on PC. Remember that PC players are now getting day one event quests available just like Nintendo Switch players are, so you are no longer behind when it comes to that. Today we're actually going to be checking out the brand new event quest that's been dropped in the game that I think is easily the most daunting task they've put up in front of us. If you still don't necessarily know how to get your event quest, make sure you make your way down to the Steelworks, speak to the courier cat, go all the way down to the add-ons option and claim anything that's labeled in white, be it free event quest, free item packs, any downloadable seed you haven't necessarily claimed, or anything along those lines. Every single week they drop something new, so make sure you claim it so you're up and ready to go. So what we're looking at here this week is a brand new endurance event quest, star level 7, so it's endgame related, and it's basically called Heart of Might. That says pretty straightforward: slay all 3 monsters, Kushala Daora, Chameleos, and Teostra in the Infernal Springs. That's it. There's no real information other than the fact that you have to go up against the 3 2.0 Elder Dragons that were added into the game. And presumably, I thought, and I think a lot of people are jumping into this quest, thinking that it's just a pretty straightforward quest. We haven't necessarily had these monsters appear in that specific arena just yet, and they just go in and you're ready to go. Now, the surprising thing is that when you actually get into the event quest, you'll quickly find out, especially when you get hit, that these are super monsters. Essentially, they have boosted parameters. They have higher damage output. They have higher defense, they have better resistances, pretty much they're all the way around way stronger than their usually normal counterparts that you have been seeing typically fought into the game. Now, these are probably not as tough as like super apexes, realistically speaking. They are pretty damn tough though, however, to the point that they're gonna one-shot you, and that's kind of like the entire point of these super versions of these monsters, that they're probably gonna one-shot you if they catch you in the right combo, or basically they hit you with their one-hit attacks, or very close to being one hit, unless you have like completely off-the-wall highest defense possible. So you definitely want to come in prepared first and foremost. Now, a couple of things: you of course have the ultimate spirit bird right at the entrance, so you don't have to necessarily have to gather spirit birds or anything like that. You could just grab that one and be ready to go right out of the gate. And then make sure you bring a lot of like AoE healing potions, powders, and stuff like that, things that are going to help you, not just yourself, but of course everybody else around you. And for Chameleos specifically, you certainly want to bring some herbal antidotes. These items will not only just heal you as well, they're like a low rank potion, basically a normal potion, but they also have antidotes inside them basically, so you're going to get rid of the poison and you're going to be able to get some heals as well. So you definitely want to bring that in. Of course, like I mentioned before, some AoE heals. Now, interestingly enough, you're going to start with Chameleos. I think he's pretty standard and straightforward. I do believe only like the one jet poison attack that he does, and it's basically based off of the fact how range positioned you are towards him specifically. So if you're like a little bit farther away and you still get hit with that, you're going to take a huge amount of damage, but you're not going to die. If you're standing right next to him, right next to his head, and he does the poison spit line attack type of thing, you're probably going to get one hit KO'd. So it's basically based off of distance, but you're still going to take high damage even if you get caught up in it. And of course, you get poisoned as well. So there's that to keep in mind. Once you deal with Chameleos, then you'll be dealing with Kushala Daora. Kushala Daora is pretty straightforward, except that he loves to do his big whirlwinds and stuff like that. You definitely want to keep an eye out for that. The black winds are definitely going to hurt even more than the silver ones, only because that is his boosted type of attacks. And then he has that big one that he flies up in the air, kind of pulls everyone in, and then he will do like a big massive hurricane in the center of where he was like hovering above. So that one can easily one-hit KO a person as well if you get caught up in it. I think it's very easy to avoid, especially if you have like silkbind attacks that kind of just move you out of an area very quickly. So you can time that rather well. I know bow gunners have that ability, and everyone else can certainly fling themselves forward or any direction with the wire bug, which is a move that a lot of people don't necessarily make the best use of. So this is one of those instances where it is going to help you to get out of a situation pretty fast. Then of course you're going to end up with Teostra, which is probably the most threatening one out of all of them, only because of his big AoE blast that you're gonna get blasted with if you are not necessarily paying attention. You can see it coming. However, this is one of the things that a lot of people just don't necessarily know about Teostra, is the fact that he's not going to do it unless he's like really shining bright. The dust is everywhere. He's super sparkly. And then you're going to be able to tell like he's ready to go. So at that point in time, you either want to stun him, you want to knock him down to the floor, or paralyze him. Exhaust even might actually work, which is what I was trying to do in our run. And then you should be able to take care of that. He's not going to do that big attack, because eventually his buff will go away, and then you should be, you know, ready to deal with him in a normal pace. Not a big deal. Now, usually, again, all of these monsters have massive attacks, like I mentioned before, boosted parameters, higher health. And I think that higher health here is what plays an interesting role, because what Capcom ended up doing here is that there's never a moment where there's downtime in this entire fight, presumably that you're not dealing with like a super powered up team that's like working together. If you're just doing this with a pug, you're not ever gonna have a chance to be able to like basically have downtime, essentially, where like you're completely disengaged, the monster just died, you have maybe 10 to 15 seconds before the other one shows up, which is typically what we have seen in the Infernal Springs. That is not the case here, and that's what I think makes it a little bit more daunting, because there's a couple of minutes, maybe a minute or two, in between you taking down the first or second monster, this in this case Camelios and Kushala Daora, where the next monster decided to show up. So if you don't kill Camelios pretty much right away, then Kushala Daora shows up, and then now you're dealing with both of them at the same time. Now that specific moment in time can be tricky, because Kushala Daora will just kind of like randomly attack people, then he starts blasting off air shots at people, and it's still, you have to deal with a Camelios poison, which can kill you if you don't necessarily pay attention to it. Again, that line spit attack that he does can be threatening, but Kushala Daora is not the most threatening one at that point in time. You will most likely have Camelios Blue at that point ready to be taken down, so make sure you do that. Make sure whatever you have as your first target originally, take that down first and then focus on the next one. This is where things, I think, are really daunting and really tough, because I saw it in both groups. The first time that I did it, the group failed, and they basically died when Kushala Daora was very low. We already had him at blue, and then Teostra came out. And Teostra came out and everyone just scattered and panicked because they weren't necessarily ready. And Kushala Daora at that point in time enrages. Teostra comes in and starts doing his like fire attacks everywhere, like spitfires and stuff like that, and flare attacks. And Kushala Daora is enraged. He does this big suck up air wind attack, puts out tornadoes everywhere, and then someone dies, and then another person dies, and then that's it, right? So it's kind of like completely unexpected. It will catch off guard. And then in the second team that I did it, the same thing happened. So the second that Teostra comes out and he starts messing around, Kushala Daora will go in rage, and then he'll do his big attack. If you survive that little bit of like a 30-second of chaos, I think you'll be fine, because once Kushala Daora dies, then you're just now dealing with Teostra one-on-one. He's still extremely dangerous with his big bang attack. He can wipe an entire team easily with it. You shouldn't get caught with that attack, but I think that is definitely the most daunting moment in the entire fight. Those in transition moments. Camelios from Kushala Daora and Kushala Daora to Teostra. If you can avoid those, dying in those moments, you're good, you're golden. You shouldn't be dying when you're dealing with them on one-on-one. They hit you extremely hard, they have a lot of health, but you should be able to overcome that. Unless you're a bad hunter, then you know that it can't be saved, then that's your fault. But in those transition moments, I think Capcom did something extremely interesting here. The timing is just good enough where you are still engaging the previous monster and the new one shows up, so you never have that moment of disengage. Now do keep in mind that in the inbox, when you start out to the left side, you do have like I believe the temporary forecasters, which are only available for that specific quest. There's 4 of them. Make sure you pick one up, especially if you're a gunner. If you are not bringing your very own forecaster on your own already, you're messing up, because you're gonna run out of ammo in this hunt. Guaranteed. I don't care who you are, you're gonna run out of ammo as a gunner in this entire fight. You're gonna need to restock at some point, and you know, you definitely want to have a Farcaster in this specific fight. Blade Masters, I don't know if you definitely need one, but you definitely want to have one just in case. So make sure you check out that inbox and grab one if you definitely need it, because you know, bowmen and bow ladies are definitely gonna need one. Blade Masters, maybe, I don't know. If you're doing solo, you probably might need to pick up more potions, I don't know. But you definitely want to make sure you, like, those transition moments are the toughest one in this specific fight. Other than that, once you're done with the event quest and you put up with all of this, I do think this is probably now the second hardest event quest in the entire game. I do think that the Super Apex Sinogre one was pretty tough, but it's not as tough as like Super Allmother Narwa. I do still think that is the toughest fight in the entire game, only because of how random that fight can actually be. There's just some randomness to it that you may not necessarily, you know, take it down 100 out of 100 times. Again, those big spears are just, you know, they're just super dangerous when they're coming out of the floor. And if you don't necessarily know how to deal with them, like I talked about in that video a couple of months back, then you're going to have a tough time in there. This is now, I think, the second toughest event quest, not necessarily because of the challenge that each one monster imposes, but because of those transition moments. They are straight up chaos. I cannot stress this enough. I certainly will see PC players have a bad time on this. I didn't even want to consider doing this on PC. I did it on the Nintendo Switch. Like I mentioned before, I failed it once. The second time we did it, 2 people still died. Again, in that transition, Kushaladora to Tuostra, 2 people still died. On PC, I don't even want to try to do this event quest because PC players are just not that good. I'm sorry. I've said this multiple times. People do not like it when I say that in the comments, but PC players right now are just not there yet. They're just, I don't know if they're not geared properly. I don't necessarily know if they're just, again, they don't necessarily understand the mechanics or whatever the case may be, but they're not right there yet where Nintendo Switch players are. We've done this already. We've been here. We kind of understand it. PC players are still getting there. So, you know, it is what it is. So with all that out of the way, what are your amazing rewards, you ask? Well, you're gonna get titles. Because of course you are. This is like the second toughest quest in the game, and you're gonna get titles for it. So enjoy those titles. I'm gonna pop them up on the screen right now. You should be able to see them. I can't even bother to remember them. They're so completely meaningless and pointless. I don't know who cares about this. But again, you're not doing this for the titles. Hell, even stickers would have been great. You're doing this for the challenge. This is a hell of a challenging quest, a daunting one at that. I can't stress this enough. This is a really good challenge. I had a lot of fun with it. I don't want to do it on PC, but I recommend you for doing it on Switch. Make sure you follow some basic tips and you should have a good time. If you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up. And as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.